All right, as the late great Freddie Mercury once said before one of his epic performances, this is what you want, this is what you're going to get. I've been inundated with requests for prospecting. Now, even though you guys know that I'm mainly a marketing guy, if you are budgetarily restricted, meaning, you don't have the investment to make in becoming a marketing guy, so clients come to you. If you're forbidden by your office to market and you're just forced to prospect, I've been asked for a prospecting masterclass. I've called in some friends. I don't think we're going to be able to do it in one episode. We're going to give it a go. This is a prospecting masterclass with myself and two of the best prospectors on the planet from the Real Estate Uncensored podcast in the USA. Here we go with the prospecting. Let's go.
You want the normal real estate training you've been told a million times? Make cold calls, knock on doors? Best be switching off now, because in this podcast we go out of the box using unknown tactics, primarily that the real estate industry's never heard of, in order to get you called in more often, convert those listings, and get more success without the painful cold calling. Listen up, we're in for a ride. This is Real Estate Renegade.
All right, before we get started, I just wanted to sort of paint the context of this little training that we've got. This was reserved historically for only my private students. So I'm really proud to be bringing you an interview with these three gentlemen that has never before been seen publicly outside of the people paying me a whole bunch of cash to help them improve their businesses. So I'm really looking forward to introducing you. This is Greg McDaniel and Matt Johnson from the Real Estate Uncensored podcast. This will be part one of maybe three. So let's get started, because there is some gold in this here episode. Pen and paper would be real handy. Take notes, listen up. Prospecting masterclass right now.
Let's talk prospecting, gentlemen. For those who know me, we've got to get right into content. For those who know me, they know that I have been historically, in fact, it was prospecting that drove me out of being a listing and selling real estate. I couldn't do it. Well, I could do it. It just was killing my soul. I couldn't handle being rejected by 97 out of 100 people. So I traveled the world and I needed to figure out marketing to get those three people to come to me. But for those agents who still need to prospect, because marketing costs a budget, marketing sometimes takes time before you get that legend status to have 20 or 30 people a month call you. So today, we're here to talk about that thing that either A, I hate, but B, if you've got to do it temporarily in order to get a budget to market, cover that time, there is no one finer in the world than these two gentlemen to get you there. So that's kind of the scope of what we're going to cover today. We're going to go deep dive because you guys have got so much to share in that hour and a half we had at the event last week. That wasn't enough to scratch the surface of your guys' talent. So we got some more time with you now, and I appreciate you guys making some time.
Oh, man. Are you kidding me? Matt and I were laughing off air. We're going, man, we only had an hour. We talked about a tenth of what we really, truly wanted to cover. And so, yeah, when you guys are like, hey, let's do a webinar together, a masterclass, we couldn't say fast enough to get back out here, hang out with you guys, come to you in our little boxes here, literally all over the world, and make it rain again. So, dude, thanks for having us. As always, you are a generous host, and we have a pleasure being a part of anything you're doing. So,
nice, man.
That's right.
Thanks, bud.
I'm here.
Matt, as the guy who kind of is with Greg and with the other folk that you hang with prospecting in your coaching programs, in the way you teach agents all over the USA and all over the world, mate, give us your take on, some of the broad strokes that we're going to cover today, particularly around how much I couldn't do it and why the stuff you're going to teach our guys today, between the pair of you guys, they're going to be able to do.
That's a great question. So, first of all, we're going to cover three myths that are out there about farming. And one of those is that you need a truckload of money to get started, because I think a lot of people think of working a neighborhood farm and the first thing their mind goes to is, great, well, I got to come up with, I need to mail 1,500, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 homes, every month, every week, maybe. We had a great guest on the show who's, one of the top agents here in San Diego, and he mails 32,000 homes a month. He didn't start that way. Nobody starts mailing 30,000 homes a month. And of course he's doing phenomenally well, but he led with revenue, and he got out there and he busted his butt, and he got out there into the neighborhoods and started with sweat equity and worked his way up to now the point where he's mailing 30,000 homes a month. And so we want to talk about that sweat equity stage and just bust some of the myths around that in terms of the fact that you don't need a huge budget. You don't have to go after the absolute highest turnover neighborhoods that have ever been known to mankind. There's nothing stopping you from going into a neighborhood with what you would perceive to be a dominant agent. So we're going to destroy those 3 myths. And then we're going to get a little bit into one of the strategies that you can execute to use kind of Glenn, the way that you phrased it was combining proven kind of methods with new school. And so we're going to talk about a way that you can combine what we would call high tech, high touch. So that's kind of our phrasing for it, and how you can get out there into the neighborhoods and start putting some sweat equity into a farm so that you can work in the exact neighborhood that you want to, even if you have no money and you don't even live in the neighborhood. So those are the things that we're going to cover.
Wow. Well, Greg, let's bust away, man. Any comments that you'd add before you bust that first myth? Because I've never seen anyone sweat more than you. I've never seen anyone with the work ethic you've got. I mean, serious, man. And you don't even just say you're doing it. You go live on Facebook Live and show us you're doing it. Holy crap.
Yeah. You know what? One of the things that came to mind, and yes, I'm going to tackle that sweating thing. Yes, I actually broke out in a big sweat on your stage because those lights were hot as heck. But you know what? I sweat just standing. Matt makes fun of me all the time for it. But you know, it is when it comes to doing the prospecting and going live. It was something that those of you who don't know me, when I first got into real estate, I was kind of more or less a screwball. Let's put it that way. And my dad, the Grand Master, said, there's not a chance in hell that you're going to go anywhere near a client for a year. You got to go out and prospect. So he taught me to go prospect, door knocking 5 days a week, 6 hours a day, out, hustling and grinding. And so it's just in my DNA to hustle and grind. I don't know how not to hustle. And so like when Matt and I were talking, like, how can we bring more value? How can we do more cool things? What else do we have in our arsenal to make it awesome? And we're like, well, what about doing your calls live or record them? I'm like, okay, let's do that. I mean, it's like breathing for me. So there's no harm, no foul in doing it. And now it's fun. Now I have the audience working with me. Now we have inside jokes, we make it interesting. Like we see how many times I can say meow to the other person while I'm talking to them. There's code things. If someone's a jerk to me, I say toodles to them on the way out and everybody gets a kick out of it. But it's just become a game.
And the other agent, is it Steve from Remax?
Bob from Remax. He's our nemesis. We don't like Bob from Remax. And by the way, Bob, there is not a real Bob from Remax we don't like. He's just a made-up person. Just I want to clarify that.
Yeah, there's some dude called Robert Smith in some Remax somewhere going, I hate that McDaniel.
I know, exactly. That's right. I picture him sitting looking out onto the city while stroking a cat.
I will get you, McDaniel.
Oh, I actually have that happen now. Now that I work from home with EXP, one of my cats makes herself at home on my lap as I am making my calls. So I'm literally sitting there petting the cat while I do my calls. So yes, I own the evil grandmaster. Yes.
So let's hit those myths. What was that first myth that you made about the budget? I believe was the first one, Matt.
Yeah. So let's talk about that, Greg, because it's, we talked about the mailing thing, and of course you guys do, and have experimented over the years with a lot of mailings, but you started out just door knocking. Your dad started out door knocking. So why don't you share, let's start with kind of your dad's story back in the day and how you learned it from him, the grandmaster.
Sure. Okay. So my dad started in real estate in Boulder, Colorado. He met my mom at the university there. They got married. He had to borrow $50 from his father-in-law to go on the honeymoon. Awkward. So he had no money. Let's put it that way. So what he did every single day is he got dressed in what we now call it the clown suit, because it didn't quite fit him right. And it was kind of an awkward looking suit, but in the snow every day he would go out and he would go door knocking. He have his galoshes on. He does his overcoat on, but rain or shine or snow, he was out there. And he didn't do it because he loved it. He did it because he had a heart for the people that were in the neighborhoods. And he told himself every single day when he was walking through the doors, he said, everybody likes me. They just don't know me yet. And the other thing is that I'm out here to cure polio. His brother had polio, and they couldn't cure it back then. And so he's like, I have the cure for polio. It could be the cure for AIDS, the cure for cancer, the cure for whatever ails someone you love. You have that cure, because when you go out there with a servant-minded attitude and you want to give to someone before you receive anything in return, it is the most powerful thing you can ever do. It's the law of reciprocity. Once you give, people will automatically give back to you. And he has been, wildly successful in real estate in 3 different states, Colorado, Wisconsin, and then here in California. He's always been a thought leader, but he started out grassroots, hitting the calls, hitting the doors, doing the networking. You know, he had the biggest IBM account, you know, in Relo in Colorado for years, you know, Chevron here for just being out and about and meeting people and doing things other people aren't willing to do. Because in this day and age, people are afraid that if I go out and meet another person, you know, oh, I have to even meet another human. That's a horrible, icky thing to do. When in reality, it's the most personal thing you can do. And you can build the most rapport with another human being, because our face, our eyes, and our brain are the best facial recognition machines on the planet. And we can identify, you know, who and what are going to be, you know, if they're lying to us or the truth. Yeah, he's trying to come up. That's why I like my guard off like this. So you might get cat sightings today. We don't know. But that's how he started. And there's pictures of him in the newspaper with two phones leaning back on the desks, you know, answering calls, doing calls. And here's Bandito. There's the
hello,
cat.
Bandito.
Freaking guy.
When you talk about that, Greg, it's interesting because one of our guys, Jay Stanley, he's still like that. He's still, as he's wrapping up call number one, because we've never, that phenomena you mentioned, and we're still doing some research to find those multiple dialers that I'm sure you guys are going to talk about, where it's got multiple lines going out. So his version of that with manual labor is as he's wrapping up the call, he can kind of feel, having done tens of thousands of calls, he knows when it's wrapping up. He knows his average dial time, and he knows when he can say, righto, bud, got to go. So he's dialing the next one, and that's ringing as he's saying, no problem, Greg, see you later. Matt, how's the world? You know, and he's once. Really, he's a machine. His name's Jay Stanley. Beast.
That is an impressive thing for people. I'm sorry. Gosh dang it, this cat.
Oh,
Bandito,
God,
we're trying to be professional here, pal. Get it together, cat. But yeah, it's one of those things that, you know, when you do things in life, like what happened right now with Bandito popping up here, things in life will always go a little bit different than what you had planned. Yeah. And being able to be comfortable in your own skin when you're doing the calls, when you're doing the network, when you're doing the doors, and just being able to talk with the other human being. I mean, that's the most important thing. Bandito will probably jump up here again. We'll probably have another laugh of him walking across the camera. I mean, I've been out door knocking, and one of the funniest stories of door knocking, and I was at the front door having a great conversation with a guy. All of a sudden, I hear this kind of rumbling from the inside of the house. I'm like, what is this weird noise? And I was in nice clothes. I was a nice day. I was looking good. I was feeling good. And all of a sudden, the two of the largest Great Danes I had ever seen in my life came barreling out of that front door and hit me square on and knocked me right on my butt. I got up covered in drool and dog hair and dirt. And I'm like, well, there goes the good look for the day. But then I just owned it and laughed about it. So, I mean, that's what when you're doing prospecting, guys, and you're doing farming, don't worry about it being perfect. Worry about going out and building a rapport and a relationship with the other person. They don't care. You can be wearing a purple Barney suit. As long as you bring value and content, they're going to respect what you're bringing to them. I mean, Matt, you and I have interviewed many agents that have said the same thing.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, the guy that comes to mind the most that we interviewed, it's been, 2.5 years ago now. It's just been a while. He's a gentleman that's probably about 45 minutes north of me on the coast here in California, and makes, $400,000 average US a year. His main prospecting method is an hour to an hour and a half of door knocking every day, 5 days a week. And then very, very simple database follow-up off of that. So his main thing is just to meet people and then to grab their contact info at the end of that conversation. Whenever he wraps things up, he offers to keep them updated on the latest listings and sales in the neighborhood. Of course, 99% of people say yes to that. He takes their email and sends them out a very simple 1 to 2 emails a month. At the time that we talked to him, he was thinking about getting really sophisticated and sending out a video message in his emails to them. But I mean, at that point, he's running a $400,000 a year revenue, single agent business, no assistant, no overhead, no nothing. Super streamlined, super profitable. Those things like that strategy, that's just a quick example of one of the things that you can do, but you definitely don't need a truckload of cash. You don't need to enter a market that way. It's the same thing with TV, radio, billboards. A lot of the most successful agents and team leaders around the country use one or all three of those things. Those things all help, but you don't need that to get started. None of those guys had that when they started. And so, Greg, you started with door knocking. You also started with calls. So let's talk a little bit about
Before we move to calls, I just want to throw something out there that that statistic you mentioned, because my guys know that I'm not just going to go along if there's something I need, I'm their spokesperson, right? So if we're in a marketplace, and I do believe we are, where we're going to get nowhere near 99% of people say yes to, hey, would you like to be kept updated on what's going on in the market or listings or whatever? Because over here, at least, either the consumers do not care about real estate when they're not in real estate mode, certainly not 99 out of 100 people, or they've been so saturated with that exact offer, would you like me to keep you updated on what's going on in the market, that they no longer care for the 17th person to make that offer in that 6-month period. So if that was not going to be the front end bribe to get contact details, have you guys seen some magnificent ways when you've interviewed about 1 billion people on Real Estate Uncensored, which, by the way, you guys all need to subscribe to? You've interviewed everyone. What are some of the other front-end bribes we could give for contact details other than, would you like to be kept updated on the market?
Well, actually, one of the things that actually comes to mind that has worked extremely well for me. Now, there's a company I use here in the States called Rockstar Connect. They throw networking events for me. They can expand out of country, but if you guys are throwing a networking event at a local pub or a restaurant or something like that, what I've done in the past, and people are blown away by this offer, I say, okay, so Matt, Julie, and your 3 obese little wood denting insulin sucking little babies, which is a joke from the show. You know what I would ask you guys to do is, hey, I'm throwing a networking event. My next one is going to be on April 16th. It's a Wednesday at 6 p.m. What's your best email information so I can get the information over for you for the networking event? And people will look at you and go like, what? I'm like, it's a networking event. I try to build up the local community because I'm not just a real estate agent that's here just to take a listing or help you buy a house. I'm here to build everyone else's businesses up, because the more you prosper, the more our community prospers. The more our community prospers, the better our children are going to do. So I want to better everybody as I work in this business. And maybe one day, if you like me enough, we can have the opportunity to work together. But right now, I would just like to help you find the most perfect client for your business. So would you want to come down and attend my networking event? They are so blown away to the fact that you actually want to put them ahead of you that they fall over themselves. Or like, yeah. And so I either get a business card or I get their email. 2 things are done. 1, they come to the event, hopefully. And number 2, now I have a direct email drip onto them, which I can send out information. I can friend them on Facebook. I can keep up with them. I can put them on different lists in Facebook, which I can hack the Facebook, algorithm. So if I put them on, so for me, it'd be like Westside Danville, which is one of our main areas. Westside Danville homeowner, like Facebook list. Then if I want to post something about Danville or about the networking event or about real estate, I post directly into that group. It goes right onto their news feed, which then they will see, because Facebook only shows you about 3 to 5% of your friends and what they're doing. So you can get around that hack. So you can use that information in 2 to 3 different ways while bringing value to the other person. So that's one of the ones I've found. Matt, what's one that you found?
Yeah, well, I mean, for the people that I've worked with, the thing that's been most effective for them, because you're right, Glenn. I mean, that's the super low level. Now, it still works. I mean, if you work it, it works. But the people that I know that do more of a higher level are doing community events or running Facebook groups for their community. And so the pitch to get contact information when they're running into people on the doors or on the phones is, hey, I do a series of videos about the community, and we talk to local business owners. And we kind of shine a spotlight on some of the cool events or the cool businesses that are coming into the community. Is that something that you'd be interested in keeping up to date on? I send an email out about once every 2 weeks or something, whatever your frequency is. Or if it's a Facebook group, would you mind if I connected with you and invited you to that Facebook group? So those are the 2 things that I would say, either a video email series or invite them to a Facebook group. Either way, grab their email. That way you get the email, and then the offer is, hey, I will send you a link to the Facebook group so you can join us and you can see all the cool stuff that we're doing. But the offer is, hey, I am a kind of taking on the role of a journalist about our community and sharing some of the great things and the great people that are going on right now in the community. And the only question is, how can I stay in touch with you so that I can get this information to you?
Yeah, I love it. And the principle there, I love that overarching principle, is that we're coming from a position of community leader, so to speak, because we often talk about building authority kind of status. So there's that community leader kind of thing. And more importantly, giving first, whatever that might be. Like inducing, Greg mentioned that law of reciprocity, that law of reciprocation. Gary Vaynerchuk, our man, calls it the thank you economy. Or jab, 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 right hook, that we're giving first. So I really like what Matt's there saying. And the one thing I would say is, if they're a business owner, we would go with what the exact way Matt said it, shine a light on business owners. If they're a community member, what I would say is incentivizing them to join that group. I was saying, look, so what happens is when we shine lights on various businesses who want to kind of go to that group, what they do is they often give a bunch of free things. They often give heavily discounted offers just to that group, primarily for our guy. In fact, recently, the local restaurant, I don't know if you know the one that opened down just beside the blah, 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 Mary's restaurant, she gave a week of free meals just to our Facebook group, like a week. You could eat there all week for free, for our group. So, and what I'm saying there is you
stuff
get
like that
deal in recent times as an example, even if it was 8 months ago, you say, look, not so long back, blah, 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 blah. So look, how can I get you the deals? So very cool.
So one thing to follow up on that, Glenn, is something that we did a number of years ago when we still do it, is that the Grandmaster, my dad walked into a nice steakhouse called Forbes Mill here in town. And what he did is said, hey, where's the GM? And they got the GM out and they talked to the general manager and he said, how can I help you put more butts in the seats? And the guy goes, how about I give you a $25 gift certificate? Done. We printed up 1,000 of those things, and then we would hand them out. I would take one out. This is actually something we learned. I actually learned this technique from Brian. You'd take one coupon out door knocking and say, hey, this is my last coupon all day long, but I would love to give you a $25 gift certificate just for your time. What's your best email? I'll email you one over right now you can use. And it's incredibly awesome because you can go every single month to different businesses in the area. And just for that Facebook group, say these are exclusive offers for Westside Danville residents only. Here is the coupon, which you can use the coupon in all the different groups. But I mean, that's what you can do, but it makes them feel like they're a part of a club and they get a reward for being a part of the club.
Yeah. I like that. One of our guys, and again, what all this stuff links in together. Because we're here today talking about prospecting, and here we are about really the exact stuff we talk about in my Become a Celebrity course. There's definitely crossover, because what we did is we took a whole bunch of those free gifts, and what we would say to the business owner, Matt, you own a restaurant here, bud, and I don't know if you know, but here in the 4-kilometer radius, there are 16 restaurants of your niche, of Chinese or whatever the case may be, of Italian or whatever. So what I want to do is, as the new buyers and the new consumers and the new residents move in, I assume, like me, when people come to your restaurant, they just come back here. They ignore the other 16. So I want to give you first bite of the cherry. What I'm going to do is put the new residents in your restaurant. Normally a marketer like me would charge you for that. I'm going to do it for free. All I need from you is that voucher for that first meal. So what we would do is then, as part of the buyer welcome pack, put all of these certificates from Italian and pizza and all of that. And then we'd say to our new consumers, on top of our welcome to the neighborhood gift basket, we would say, now tonight, I know moving in, it's a pain in the butt day. All of your stuff's in boxes, so you don't know where your kettle is. You couldn't even make a cup of tea if you wanted to. Here is dinner on us. You choose pizza, blah, 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 blah. You take this, you show it to Mark down at the whichever one they choose, and it's all handled. We've got this. It's just our way of saying thank you. And you haven't even paid for it. Mark down the road is at the thing, but you're taking all the credit, and they love you. We've had buyers in tears as to how considerate that is, because they were sitting there, they were going to have to get some takeout or whatever. They weren't going to cook because their pots and pans are in boxes. So on a day that's highly emotional, as you're building relationships on this prospecting system, you can multi-purpose the use of that relationship with those businesses in many, many ways, more than just this.
Oh, yeah. We do the pizza thing, and it goes over with flying colors. We go to Costco, and they're $10 a pizza. Those big old pizzas. You buy 3 of them, so it's overkill. You come walking in with 2 pepperonis and a cheese, a case of beer, a case of sodas, and a thing of water in the back. Drop it down. I have a blue cape on my back as I walk out that door to that family. It's like Superman just joined us. He flew in and brought us food.
Wow.
But
notice Greg knows his
awesome.
marketplace. Pizza, beer.
Pizza, beer, and water, man.
Demographic.
I do. And actually, I'm doing it for a client of mine tomorrow. He just moved in and he's bringing his 2 new daughters over to the house. They're going to spend the first weekend in the house and stuff like that. So I'm hitting him up. He loves beer. He bought the house because he wanted to walk down to the local brewery, which I'm like, swing, pal. I'll be at your house. And you know what? And he really wants to show off to his daughters, and what better than have some pizzas for a couple of young gals, like 14 and 12 or something like that. So, just paying it forward to the clientele. Matt, do we want to go over parties, or are we going to?
Let me throw this one there, because I want to give one based on that principle. If Greg's got the pizza beer principle for the pizza beer demographic, they didn't share it this tour. And I don't even know if they shared it last tour. It might have been, I had a little private session with the Altmans last time where they got together with a few of our guys. And I don't know where they shared it, but it was definitely the last time. It wasn't this time. Here's the next level. If the pizza and beer crowd do it this way, here's what the Altmans do it for the upper end crowd. So what I'm saying is, don't throw out the pizza beer idea that Greg just mentioned just because your clients might be in $1 million houses. What the Altmans do is they hire a celebrity chef. They hire a celebrity chef for move-in day, and they get the guest to invite 10 of their friends, who, by the way, do you think friends of people who can buy a $2 million house or a $5 million house might have friends who can buy $5 million houses? Of course. So they invite 10 of the buyer's friends, plus the buyers or the sellers or whatever, plus the celebrity chef, plus you guys, and they're not allowed to bring it. The only condition is no other real estate agents. So they get to meet 10 other people of that ilk for the cost of the celebrity chef for the night. So it's the same as Greg's talking about with the pizza, but it's just a tweak. It's just what you would do in a different way. So, but I interrupted there, and Greg was asking Matt about go into, so I'll leave that.
Well, we've still got 2 more myths to bust. So, Greg, we can take whichever one you like, but we need to bust the myth that you have to have a super, super high conversion rate, and that depends kind of on what area you're in and what your prices are. So we can get into that, or we can talk about what to do when there's a dominant agent, or what you think is a dominant agent in the area that you want to work.
Matt, I will take door A, please, for $200.
All right. Conversion rate for $500.
Okay, so conversion rates, you need when you're all of you guys who don't know what a conversion rate is, it's how many homes are selling in a market in a calendar year to date, 12 months. Okay, so what you typically say, and what some people argue to the fact, is if you don't have at least a 6% turnover rate, you shouldn't be working in that marketplace. Well, there's a difference in the different type of markets that you're going to be working in. So what I'm going to talk about briefly is the 3 different type of markets that you can work in. And why a high turnover rate doesn't always have to be, applicable in all of your marketplaces. So generally, when you're looking for a marketplace, I say to keep a minimum of about 15 to 2,500 homes. That might sound like a lot, but this is a numbers game. When you look at the mailing costs, it's not an exorbitant amount of money. If you do every door direct, or if you just pick a mailing house, it'll be a couple $100 per mailing, but this is an investment in your business. So you want to do your low, your middle, and your high different marketplaces. Now, you want to do all 3 of those. They don't have to be contiguous. They don't have to be right next to each other, but they do need to feed each other. So the base properties, when people start off and buying condos or lower end homes, then they feed into the nicer middle class homes, and then they feed into the luxury nice areas. Now, you want to do that because you can buy in all 3 marketplaces, but the upper class is probably buy down into the beginning class for investment. The middle class is going to go up to the upper class. The upper class is going to move down to the middle class, and everyone's going to feed off the beginning class for investments. It's a very symbiotic relationship. So you can protect your business if the market takes a turn and your higher end marketplace freezes up, right? And your turnover goes away. You still have 1 to 2 other marketplaces that you can feed on and generate your business. And also your higher end marketplaces, in our marketplace, $2.5 million, $3 million and up, that will start crusting into our multi-million-dollar high-end market here in the US in my marketplace. And that has a thinner oxygen for affordability. So your turnover rates are going to be smaller. If you have a turnover rate that's 6% at the multi-million-dollar homes, God bless you. That is a wonderful problem to have, but 99.9% of us won't have that problem. Well, we got to work with higher numbers in lower areas, but if you combine these different turnover rates, you're going to look at your entire marketplace. That's where you're going to get your value from. So if one or two are really kind of having a rough day, but one's really killing it, now you can swing your business and market into that other area a little bit more effectively. So it just hedges you against market shifts. And it also helps you, feed all the different, needs for your different sellers and your different buyers.
That's an interesting thing that you mentioned there, because that's why I love having you guys here. Matt, as kind of a guy who, as the host of Real Estate Uncensored, and guys, you need to subscribe to that podcast because it's just freaking one of the greatest real estate podcasts on the planet. So find it everywhere it needs to be. The Stitches, the iTunes, it's everywhere. We kind of normally hear, maybe we've been spoiled and haven't been exposed to as many market crashes and ups and downs as you guys in the States. Because I rarely have I've heard it mentioned that we have these hedging bets of lower, middle, or whatever, because often we'll pick one and focus on it and go deep dive in any one of those. Whereas I love the fact that you guys seem to be able to not be, let me ask you this, Matt. Will you be judged if you're selling a multi-million-dollar property? Will the lower end sellers think, oh no, I can't afford Matt, he's upper end? Conversely, will the owners of $1 million property say, I ain't going to go with that Glenn Twiddle because he's selling shit boxes down in the valley or whatever? Does that ever come as an issue that you've seen when you try that hedging the bets strategy?
In the long run, no. In the short run, you may get the specific objection occasionally. Yes. So one of the things, so my buddy Jeff Cohn runs the #1 team in the state where I'm from, Nebraska. His team sells 800 homes a year. He makes,
wait a minute. Let's just, when you say a team, how many in the team?
They sold that last year with around 25 agents. Since then, he's doubled his agent count. So they'll sell probably close to 1,000.
Is that what we might call an EBU, a business unit, or is that a full brokerage?
No, he's not an indie. He's under just Berkshire Hathaway. So he's just a team within a brokerage.
Right. So over there, and guys, that's unfamiliar to us. Our teams max out with, like, Matt Steinway's probably got one of the biggest in the country, and that's 9, including admin and 2 listing and selling entities, but 7 entities to support those 2 listing and selling entities. But that's giant. Like Chris Gilmore, one of the guys you met, Chris, a buyer runner, 2 admin PAs really, and 1 kind of runaround guy. So that's normally what we would consider a team. Not what you guys describe as a team. That's 1 head guy, but say 15 agents who are full agents. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's a different, well, I don't know if it's a different model. It's just that it's more prevalent. Like teams can get really big here. 60, 100, 150 agents can still be considered a team technically.
But that's not an office. That's a team within an office.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's unfamiliar here. That doesn't happen.
Yeah. And so like with Jeff, so like specifically because his brokerage, like starting from the point when he was a successful single agent and then to a very small, like family team, like just the way that he came up in the business and where he was at geographically, they started off doing a lot of their deals in a certain area of the city, the more affluent area of the city. So he started to gain the reputation that they only sold homes in that area. So now built into their listing presentation that all of their agents take with them is a grid that shows them like all the homes they've sold all over the city and even all over the state, because that way they just annihilate that. And now they've gotten to the point where they're just omnipresent so that everybody understands. Nobody thinks of them as a west side of the city team or a sales organization. Now they're just everywhere. But yeah, there was a gap in time where they dealt with that objection for a little while until they got to the point where they were just everywhere and that objection doesn't really exist anymore. But I will say this, like any super successful high producing agent or team leader will tell you to not worry about it. Like we list everything from $1 million homes down to $60,000 property lots that are vacant lots on the edge of town. You know what I'm saying? So it's, every high producing agent or team leader I've talked to would tell you like not to psych yourself out about working multiple different marketplaces, because even the people that have a quote luxury brand can still get away with listing and selling, you know, what you might call a subprime or less than luxury homes without an issue with their luxury seller clients.
So it's probably going to cause more damage by us even thinking about it than the occasional
100%.
one where it might be actually an issue. So
yeah, it's 100% in our heads. Yeah, for the most part.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's ever really been about, you know, luxury brands or not. I mean, if you treat the luxury people the same way you treat the people that are up and coming, the lower end buyers and sellers right now, it's all about customer service and how they perceive you treating them. Because I've never had anyone like, well, with our $5 million listing, I've never seen him look at us and be like, I'm not sure if I'm going to list with you guys because you just sold a, you know, a $500,000 house over in Concord. You know, that just doesn't take place. Those worlds are separated anyways. And if they know that they can, you know, come to you down the road and say, look, I am looking for an investment property. Do you do investment properties? I remember you were selling some $500,000. Yeah, we do. We sell anything you can live in, we can sell. And so that's the way we bring value to it. And at least here in the States, we've never had blowback on that.
Yeah.
Ever. It's only been a bonus.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So I can tell you that the agents that I run into that have that mentality that, well, I won't list anything below X, they really never run.
I just want to slap them.
Yeah.
Yes.
They
just
never
want to slap those people.
They never get on real estate uncensored.
Yeah, there's not a lot of them on a podcast. That's right. All right. So let's talk about another mental roadblock, because this is a lot of the same phenomenon, which is the idea that if you find an area or a neighborhood that you'd love to work, and then you drive around, you see, oh man, Bob from Remax, freaking Bob's got it's like every other listing that guy Bob from Remax has in my neighborhood. He's in my neighborhood. Like what am I going to do? So Greg, let's talk about that. First of all, does it matter? Should we think about it, concern ourselves with it? What does it matter if there's somebody in the neighborhood that has a lot or most or a good good chunk of the listings that tend to sell in that particular neighborhood? Yeah,
and let me throw the alternative to that, Greg, while you answer. Does that mean whatever you're going to say, throw in there then, as opposed to there's 10 agents there with 10% market share? If it's equally spread with no dominant, is that better? Or is it better to go up against the dominant one? Like those two variables, what are the pros and cons of going in each of those ways if you're going to go in?
So if you want the answer to that and many other questions that Greg is going to answer, then you got to tune in to the next episode. So you got to hit that subscribe button, hit that bell, do whatever you've got to do. Now, one other thing before we go any further, one of the things that we mentioned on this training was you doing some calls to local businesses to get some freebies into your VIP club, some offers and things. If you want our team to make those calls for you, because a couple of my students did do it over the last couple of years, that particular VIP club, and they found the hardest part of it was making those calls to the businesses and assembling all the freebies and getting all the gifts, all the prizes, all the samples, all the vouchers, and all of those things. So if you wanted my team fully trained to make those calls for you, just book a call with us. It's at agentsocialmedia.com.au. So link down below, agentsocialmedia.com.au. That'll book you a time to have a chat to me or Naomi, and we'll see if we're a good fit for us to, give you some of those prospecting calls, not necessarily just to consumers, but to local businesses to set up that very prospecting tactic that Greg described in this week's episode. So stay tuned for part 2, though. Next episode, because we couldn't cram it all into one. Next episode, we'll be talking deeply. You heard the question we left the cliffhanger on. It's like the old Batman series. How will Batman get out of this one? You're going to hear the answer to that question. How to go up against a mega agent in your area. What if there is no dominant player? What different strategies do you do then? That and much more on the next episode of Real Estate Renegade. See you then.
Wow. Well, there you go. I hope you liked the episode. If you liked that, then what you need to do is you need to subscribe. You need to get more of this craziness because we got more coming. I'm never standing still, and we've got so many more guests. We've got so many more strategies, more out-of-the-box thinking. So if you haven't subscribed, literally, you're like throwing away thousands of dollars. So I tell you, if you haven't subscribed, you don't come back, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to find you, I'm going to market to you, and I'm going to charge you for the very stuff that on this podcast we give away for free. So whack that subscribe button on whatever your favorite podcast weapon of destruction is, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now.